What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Heath Mullican, joined by Nick McDaniel. Nick, how are you today, my good friend?
I'm good, man. Look, we've obviously everybody's kind of had a rough past few days, and almost week now at this point. But it's we got fortunate. We missed a lot. I know up in your area it was a little more impacted and stuff like that. So we're kind of more worried about you guys than anything.
Yeah, it has really been a tough go on. I was in one of the areas we were without power from Friday morning until Sunday night, but I don't think people really understand the devastation that was done here, especially in parts of Western North Carolina. I know Augusta got hit really hard. So just a lot going on. I'm very grateful to host a podcast that is a break from all that. That is it's a release for me. It's been good. You and I have been talking for probably 2 hours already this morning.
Yeah.
And it's been very therapeutic. And my hope is that someone who is in the midst of the struggle and they're trying to figure stuff out, that we just give them a little bit of an escape for a little bit. And so hopefully we can do that. We are so grateful. I'm grateful for this podcast. We're grateful for all of our members. And if you want to find out more, if you want to get the shows early, if you want to get behind the scenes information, you can go to patreon.com/tappedoutpod, or you can go to tappedoutpod.com. That takes you right to our YouTube page. You can become a member there. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you need to subscribe to the channel. You need to scroll through, like all the videos. Most importantly, hit that bell so you get all the notifications. We're always thinking of ideas. We're always thinking of stuff to put there. You get access to the show notes, and there's different things that we post that you get early, or you get stuff that nobody else gets. So let's jump right into and talk a little AEW. Last week was the Grand Slam. They're leading up to WrestleDream. Nick, I'd love your thoughts. The only match announced for the October 12th pay-per-view, Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson there in the main event, where it feels like it, and I believe they've said every match for Danielson is a potential retirement match. What are your thoughts on Danielson and Moxley going head-to-head once again?
There's twofold here. I think on one hand, kind of in that hometown-ish area for Bryan Danielson, I could see this being a card. But has it been hyped up enough to be his last match? You know what I mean? That's kind of my only thing. And when I'm looking at the rest of the year, the pay-per-view calendar, I don't know. Let me ask you, is there a pay-per-view later that's big enough to warrant it either? Or do you just pull the trigger on this thing now? Because he's basically on no deal. When he loses, his full-time run's over. And I guess the most important question is, do you do it with Jon Moxley, put the title back on him, or do you try to – because I'm going to contradict what people probably think my answer would be. I'm going to get you answer first. Or should he lose to a younger guy or somebody to help kind of elevate that guy and bring him along?
That's a very good question. On the one
I'm sorry.
hand,
I'm not to interrupt on it because I know, and that's on me. Sorry. I hate to interrupt, but because I think this is perfect for your answer. Specifically, Jon Moxley and Darby Allin had a match for the winner was going to. Darby Allin this was supposed to be his spot, and he lost this opportunity in a match on the Grand Slam. So I think that's kind of when I say, in all reality, instead of just saying making a younger guy, we could almost narrow it more specifically as, should it have been Jon Moxley? Should it have been Darby Allin? Somebody else? But I think clearly, if you were talking about the scenario I laid out for you, those were the two names that are probably specifically it should have been Darby Allin instead of Jon Moxley if they choose to end it at the WrestleDream.
Yeah, to me, this seems like they could go a couple of different ways. If Moxley wins, you could make it to where this is such a blood feud that Brian Danielson's like, nah, I'm not quitting. I'm going to end you or whatever. What I find most interesting about this match is if you ask 100 people, is Brian Danielson the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time? Maybe 90 would say, yeah, or you could persuade them. On the flip side, when you go on social media, talk to people, when I talk to even some wrestlers, John Moxley is viewed entirely different than Brian Danielson as far as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's been very successful. So to say this is a contrast in styles is very good. I think I'm loving the storyline, the Blackpool Compact Club. That came out of nowhere. That's very interesting. What are they doing? What's their end game? It's a very good question. They should 100% use Brian Danielson to build up someone. However, I do not view Darby Allin as the heavyweight champion for that company. I believe Darby Allin is a very talented wrestler. I believe he is. You want to talk about over? Definitely over. We saw the kids at Buford a few weeks ago with their faces painted, and they were so excited to see him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know who is that in AEW. Who is that Brian Danielson, by losing the title to them, would make them, cement them? Does it do anything for John Moxley for him to end Brian Danielson's career?
I think that answer would be, I'm thinking past, this is the hardest concept for a lot of guys to get, or people, fans, whatever. I'm thinking the next 3 years down the road, not like next month. I 100% think it should be John Moxley and not Darby Allin or a younger guy. And I only say that because there's something that I learned from the Undertaker, Brock beating the streak. It took me a year. You ready for this? It took me about a year to come to grips with, I think they made the right call.
Right.
Everybody said, oh, it should be a young guy. It should be a young guy to make a guy. But then you would have argued he didn't deserve it. Like he hadn't earned that spot. And I think that's, plus, by the way, Brian and Darby, both baby faces, I think long term it probably damages him more than it helps him. But it always comes down to, when it comes to, people forgetting there's a world title involved here.
Yeah.
And what you said matters most. Some people don't like his style of wrestling, so whatever. John Moxley is 100% a world champion caliber wrestler that they have on their roster. So for him to be the guy, because by the way, if the Blackpool Combat Club is a heel faction, now you have a champion who has a group around him who might do anything to keep him champion.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I'm saying? Like, that's, especially with a guy like Pac involved, right? Like, he screams like I'm the enforcer guy who'll do whatever it takes to keep him champion. Therefore, I just kind of get like, I know people, everybody would assume Nick's probably going to choose the young guy to make him. I'm not a big fan of champions losing to guys to make them. I come from a school of thought of, if you're going to be the world champion, you kind of already should be made. Now, We're not talking Intercontinental, U.S., all those under, and in AEW, the Continental, whatever all that stuff. That's a whole different argument. You can use that belt to help make a guy. You should be made to get a world title.
I always, when I am thinking about wrestling, when I'm thinking about booking, my core wrestling memories are 85, 86, 87, Four Horsemen, when they had all the titles, especially the iteration with Barry Windham in the group. So, like, I'd love to see Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley get a title, one of them get they've got the trios championship. Not sure where they're going with that, because not sure, what are they doing with Wheeler? So to have a dominant heel faction that just kicks butt and takes names and basically dares you to stop them. Um, we that would be really cool to see. That would be really cool to see. I think I'm traveling that day, maybe back that night. I'm trying to get my dates all. Yep, I'm traveling. No, I'm at an event, so I'll have to watch that the next day. But Mark and I always watch the AEW pay-per-views. Like, we love AEW. We love watching, and no other matches announced yet. So that'll be interesting to see what they do to build the rest of the card.
Yeah, and listen, I know a lot of people are gonna we do a lot of AEW talk on this show. I'm sure Bad Blood is coming up this weekend. Myra and I we'll do a deeper dive into Bad Blood on the Tapped Out show that drops in the next day. So kind of if you're into that one as well, there'll be more feedback on that one.
Did you see for Bad Blood where some of the resale tickets people were asking in the thousands of dollars?
We're going to have a whole conversation. One of the topics I put on tap for Tapped Out, no pun intended there, is the WrestleMania tickets went on sale.
Oh.
And the prices attached to those. So kudos to WWE, by the way. They don't sell the individual tickets in they're doing those packages to trap what's the airfare, the hotel, the front row seats, then I think you get tickets for like SmackDown and Raw, etc. Front row, $50,000 was the price tag. Second and third were like 30.
Wait, what?
Check into the Tapped Out podcast when we dive deeper into that conversation.
Oh,
you got to have cojones on you, and you got to think your product is mega hot to demand that kind of price tag right now.
But like, that's the package where you're getting
airfare.
Is that both nights of Mania?
I believe my understanding is it's SmackDown. It's both nights of Mania. It's Raw, the hotel. Like I said, your airfare.
Hall of Fame.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. It's Hall of Fame right after SmackDown. Yeah. So right. It's probably like. And I haven't bear with me. I have not dove in to see every single thing that it comes with because I was curious. But that's typically the travel packages are they're pretty deep. So yeah, it's yeah.
Well, I will be just another reason to tune in to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast this week. As we move into our indie wrestling talk, we want to bring you another edition of This or That this week featuring Wrestling's Warden. Hello, everyone. It's Heath Mulligan with the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Welcome to another edition of This or That, and is it the Warden or just Warden?
I am the Warden. I am your Warden. I am wrestling's Warden.
Well, we are here with the Warden, and it's This or That. Underdog, or you want to be the top dog?
I want to be the top dog.
Cutting promos or in-ring action?
Ooh, in-ring action. I want to hurt people.
Suplex or DDT?
Suplex. I want to throw people.
For your ring gear, you like flashy or simple?
Flashy.
I got you. Would you rather have a long title reign or frequent title reigns?
Long.
Would you rather be a guest commentator or guest referee?
Guest commentator.
Chair shot or table break?
Table.
Would you rather make a surprise return or a surprise debut?
Ooh, surprise debut.
If someone's using a foreign object, do you prefer a chair or a kendo stick?
Kendo stick.
Would you rather have a wrestling figure or a trading card?
Figure.
Figure? Yeah. Would you rather have, would you prefer a wrestler's autobiography like the book or a documentary?
Documentary. I'm dyslexic.
Oh, I got you. Would you, if for an outdoor show, you want to wrestle in the rain or wrestle in the sun?
Sun. Rain, I'm going to slip.
Gotcha. SummerSlam or Survivor Series?
SummerSlam.
Gotcha. If you're on commentary, you ever done commentary before?
Once.
Once? You want to do play-by-play or the color?
Ooh, color. I like that. I like doing both play-by-play or color. Thanks to Wrestling's Warden for joining us for this or that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Dude, thanks a lot, man, for doing that.
No, thanks to you. Hold on. Let me plug my stuff first. Wrestling Word on everything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Follow me because I am the champion's champion.
Well, thanks to the Warden for being on this or that with us, and thank him for not kicking my butt. That was, I think I need to start requesting hazard pay for these.
Yeah, we it was I thought for a minute there you were trying to just thank him for coming on, and he just jumped all over, so Wrestling's Warden, check him out on social media. He is he's a young up and comer, and he's all over the place, dude, at Turnbuckle and Monday Nightmares. He's even hitting the Carolinas up in your neck of the woods, man.
That's right. I saw him at a show in North Carolina, and yeah, he is everywhere. Let's jump into this week's Indy Rewind. As we mentioned earlier, the Carolinas and Georgia, parts of Florida, so affected by this storm, and Silva, North Carolina, home of Heroes to Legends Wrestling. They don't run a lot of shows, but they run a couple of charity shows a year. Silva, North Carolina, one of the towns devastated by Hurricane Helene this past weekend. Viral Pro Wrestling has already announced they have canceled their Trick or Trauma show this Saturday in Augusta. Obviously, thoughts and prayers out. Josh Hancock, the owner of Viral, posted he may be 4 to 6 weeks without power. We know several people down there who lost everything, and I feel my heart breaks for Viral Pro Wrestling. They've drawn over 400 fans a few times in their tenure, but 2 of the times they drew 400 and then COVID hit. And then this time they had the huge show, their biggest show ever with Joe Henry. And now this happens. And again, wrestling is such a small part,
correct,
in the grand scheme of things. But I know no one works harder than Josh Hancock, and so we're hoping they'll be back for their December show.
Do you want to just go ahead and we'll dive in, because night by night there was multiple shows that canceled. So
yeah,
because we could go night, but Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling had the Greensboro show in Greensboro, Georgia. It's just on the kind of the other side of Athens, heading in that direction. They kind of were in the similar thing, so that show got canceled. Which, by the way, go ahead.
Yes. Speaking of Turnbuckle, the last few days I've been dealing with this storm. I've had a lot going on. It hit me this morning. 2 things hit me this morning. Number one is this Friday is the big showdown with you and Jacked Jameson. The other thing is my weekend event got canceled. And so I want you to know, I have no idea what's going through your mind. I want you to know I will be there. I'll be whatever you need. I'll be in your corner. But on the one hand, I understand when a dude kind of bows up to you, questions you. Yes, in the heat of the bro. What are we doing here? What are we doing? So,
I've had last week on the show, I accepted his Jacked Jameson challenge. This Friday, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, Buford, Georgia, Tannery Row. I don't know, man. The more I thought about this, my wife over the weekend, she's like, are you sure about this? It's one thing. Look, you're always you're right. There's a part of you that one of the bad things about men is we react sometimes with our manhood, or it's not ego, it's your pride, maybe.
Yes.
Sometimes our pride makes us do dumb things. And listen, I mean, I clearly tried to point out, even on that, when I accepted this challenge, I'm not a wrestler. I'm not, look, I'm 50. I'm not in the greatest shape. That's an understatement, right? Lots of things. Jacked Jameson he's built. He's in tremendous shape. He's a television talent that like goes to show you his abilities. So I don't know, man. It's a rare occasion that I come back in hindsight and go, all right, man, maybe I did bite off more than I can chew here. So I don't know, man. The closer we get, I'm like, is it fair to say that I may have made a mistake?
Yes. I think that's definitely fair to say. In the heat of the moment, though, I mean, this guy has been coming after you for months. And, I mean, sooner or later, you kind of have to put your foot down and say enough is
and
enough.
Look, when he spit on me at the show and I threw the water on him and he caught that should have been it. I probably, and I should probably, again, that was pride and, look, dude spit. Of course I'm going to react. Probably shouldn't have. I should have just been like, whatever, kind of, but that's what we do, right? That's what guys do. We do stupid stuff sometimes. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, man. We're recording this on Tuesday and Friday's it's close and it's far enough away that maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. We're going to figure it out though.
I do know. I mean, he told you any stipulation. So I'll be there, whatever you need. But I'm telling you, I don't think I'm shocking the world when I say this. Physically, I'm not going to be a whole lot of help.
We will see. We'll figure something out between now and Friday, I hope. That's all I can say. We'll figure out something.
So, again, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, again, canceled the show, but they got 37 other shows happening this month, it feels like. One show that didn't cancel, Friday night, Action Wrestling, Fayetteville, Georgia. Good crowd. You had a lot of different things. You had Bobby Flacco, who just had an opportunity against the one called Manders, who is over in England over the weekend. Bobby Flacco, still number one contender. He defeated the Action Futures winner, Jameson Shook. So now it's going to be Flacco challenging Manders Friday, October the 18th. And I have to believe second time is going to be the charm for Bobby Flacco.
Look, we've discussed it in the past. Like Bobby Flacco has slowly but surely over the years climbed. He won the crowd over. He started picking up those W's. Wins matter. He's picking those W's up, and then he kind of earned. And I want to emphasize, he earned his place at the table there. And look, it wasn't his night the first time around. October the 18th, I think I'm with you. It might be Bobby Flacco's time to sit atop the Action Wrestling, world with that Action Championship. That's my take.
Yes. I want to give kudos to the team at Action. Once shows started canceling because of the weather, it affected their card. They had booked Landon Hale versus Sean Legacy. Sean Legacy from Augusta, family affected by the storm. He can't be there. Totally. Listen, that's one of those things. Yes, you definitely. Yes. Yeah, you can't come. You're not coming to this show. But you had a show canceled, the Turnbuckle show. Carlie Bravo's booked for that. So the calls are made. Kudos to Action for opening the door for talents who had their shows canceled. And it's Carlie Bravo and Landon Hale. A match that was not booked.
Yep. Was
not supposed to happen. And reports are, and you and I will watch it as soon as it's on IWTV. It might be there now. I just haven't had internet or power. we're hearing match of the year candidate Carlie Bravo and Landon Hale.
It's like you said, man. Just Carlie Bravo. Here's the thing: he's put this challenge out there. Like he'll come in, he'll wrestle your top talents. It's one of those times you do want to tip your cap to the powers that be at Action Wrestling to recognize, hey, a lot of times we talk about promotions that when something cards, plans, cards change, cards, whatever. If something happens, and again, Mother Nature, 100%, Sean Legacy did 100% the right call. Take care of your family.
Yes.
If you lose a Sean Legacy, you have to, from my understanding, most promoters, and clearly this is what Action thought by what happened, okay, we can't deliver what we promised them. We are going to, no disrespect to Sean Legacy, we are going to try to over-deliver the replacement. Like you can't go out and get, Joe Schmo down the street to fill in for Sean Legacy. We got to go for somebody. And the thought comes into somebody's mind to react to the turnbuckle cancellation, make the phone calls that need to be made, and then Carlie Bravo to come in as the replacement. So you're using, this is somebody's brain constantly, just revolving and thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, show canceled. He's available. He's put this open challenge out here. I can get him, bring him in. Oh, and by the way, like I said, everything we've heard or seen is everybody's like, dude, this could arguably sit atop anything that's happened, in Georgia this year. So again, there are times that you like say 1,000% Action Wrestling deserves the credit for delivering this match. And everybody that I talked to 2 people that were in the building, and they absolutely say stole the show by far.
There's a joke in independent wrestling, and I don't want to get. I think the saying is he's a 40-mile guy. He wrestles within 40 miles of where he lives. That's true of a lot of promotions too. They only book guys within 40 miles. Action Wrestling this weekend had people from Texas, New Jersey, Massachusetts, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and of course Georgia on this card. You are going to see people at Action Wrestling you cannot see anywhere else in Georgia. Some of them not anywhere else in the Southeast. So if you are near an Action Wrestling show, highly recommend that you go check them out. And if you have the opportunity to book a guy who's on TV, why wouldn't you do that? Especially if he's put out that challenge. So make sure you check out Action Wrestling. Royston, Georgia. I believe they reduced ticket prices Friday night to kind of help those who were affected by the storm. Lots going on there, but they are leading up October 12th, or excuse me, October. I'm getting all my dates confused. Anyway, not this Friday, but the next. They're having Fighter Web, and they are having a championship match. Right now, Tower's their champion. He's been feuding with Xander Seabolt. They're both going to be involved in this match. Rick Page going to be in a cage.
They're bumping that up. That's this Friday. Originally,
oh my!
So Page in a cage has been bumped. That's the crazy thing is that
wow.
They're trying to do their. This is probably going to become a repetitive theme on our show where we're like, pump the brakes, folks. We get it. Wrestling is silly. And, in the grand scheme of things right now, but we're trying to kind of take you out of that. So bear with us. They're trying to deliver entertainment to take people's minds off of it. So The Rick Page in a cage is actually getting bumped up. And then Fighter Web, we can get into that, but like that base doesn't like Rick Page.
Yes.
Nor should they for that matter. The guy's another pain anyway, so he kind of belongs in this cage where he's getting put. But now, like you're talking about the Fighter Web, we talked about this off air.
Yes.
I'll let you run through it because I'm so intrigued by this.
So here's how it works. All the participants, they draw a random entrant number. Starts with 2 competitors. You can be eliminated at any time by pinfall or submission. So it starts with 2 people. Every 2 minutes, somebody enters. So after 2 minutes, it becomes a triple threat. After 4 minutes, it's like a 4-way. At any point in the match, if I pin one of my opponents, everyone's eliminated from the match, and then it starts all over again. So, and the champion is in this match, will also draw a random number, can lose the title anytime, doesn't have to be pinned or submitted. This is a very fascinating this is a very, very fascinating thing for me. And I love that the champ has got to win. I love a match where the champion has to win to retain.
Yes. And some people don't like he can lose his title without being pinned or whatever. In this scenario, it could be. There's lots of things about this. So 1,000%, it's important to come to this week's show to know all the pieces that have kind of happened over and kind of played out. Speaking of that, have you Jaden Vane finally? Luke Da Silva gets his hands on it. They're like the sneak attacks or whatever. Luke Da Silva puts out that he wants to face Jaden Vane at Fighter Web on the 11th, not this show, but the next one.
Yeah.
And he is granted that by Jonathan Feltner. So we are going to finally see. So if Jaden Vane's back, what's in store? That's kind of why you want to jump in and check. By the way, if you're in that area, go out and check them out, obviously. But look, how many times do we have to say kudos for SCA for every Friday, like clockwork? Look, and especially in a time when I think it could do a lot for people just to get away from everything that was going on at home, to go sit in that, in the Royston Dome and watch a show. That was kind of cool, I think.
Yes. I want to mention Luke Da Silva. Luke Da Silva, if a lot of people don't know, he is an award-winning amateur wrestler and is a big-time amateur wrestling coach in that area. Luke Da Silva brings skills to the squared circle that I don't know. I mean, who else in Georgia has like a really top-notch amateur wrestling background other than whose last name is not Buchanan, maybe. So he is somebody I am keeping my eye on. But he and Jaden Vane have been going back and forth. So to see them finally get their hands on each other, and they'll probably, now that Jaden Vane is an active member of the roster, who knows what's going to happen. You're going to get to see a man in a cage, Paige in a cage, this Friday. Make sure you check him out there at the Royston Dome in Royston, Georgia. Yeah. Saturday night, Savannah, Georgia was right in the path of the storm. I don't know all the ins and outs of the damage, but Coastal Empire was canceled over the weekend. You did a pretty lengthy interview with Bryce Cannon about that show and the state of Coastal Empire. That is definitely one of those promotions that was not on our radar at the beginning of the year, but there certainly are now.
Yeah, and it was a big show. They had a lot of really good stuff. That was on that show. And I was going to ask you this because I did that. We were talking about doing a segment on the Tapped Out show of the week, game day-esque kind of thing, or like, should that be a separate show? And I put it out there, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, what people thought of that. Listen, and going forward, look, if it's a full episode, it will be the longer, kind of like I did with Bryce. Some people were like, hey, make it a segment, make it 10 minutes, make it a shorter segment kind of thing. We can figure all that out, kind of thing. And I thought, again, here's why you should be a member at patreon.com. One of the thoughts I had was me, you, and Myron doing a 3-way call, basically doing like game day, take the show of the week, talk about it briefly, put the matches that we know, that we're aware of, and make our picks.
Yes.
Like we make our picks for who we think is going to win all the matches, and then kind of, go from week to week. And the original concept was, I was thinking it would be the shit, like, so I'm going to say something here, and this is kind of probably a weird spot to throw it in here. It says editorial should be at the end, but so I had a conversation with somebody, and it was about like the shows, how we choose the shows we go to, whatever. And I did 3 shows the last weekend, and I think here's the announcement. I think 3 show weekends are probably over for me.
Yeah.
I think 2 max is probably a good. 1's probably going to be the norm. And so here's my challenge. The show of the week maybe should be the show that I'm going to go to. And so it's a featured show, and how I choose it or whatever. But here's my statement. There is no favoritism. You have got to put a card. I need two things. One, you need to have a card that's compelling enough for me to get in the car and drive that far. Most of the shows are hour plus away.
Yeah.
Two, I need to know what the card is.
Yes.
Like, I'm not coming to a show where I have no clue what I'm going to see. When I say that, you know what I mean. Like, I have no, like, what wrestlers are there, what, like the card, just something. And maybe that's maybe that's a wrong, but this is our podcast, and this is how we choose to do it. If you want one, start one, draw. And then you can cover however you want it. It's tough to cover that many promotions, but we are kind of committing to try to make. There will be weeks. I jokingly said, like, there will be games. Who did Carolina play? Was it South Carolina recently played, and I cannot remember for the life of me who they played. And game day went to that game. It was like, I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But so there will be weeks where we pick somebody that is like, hey, we're not saying it's the absolute best show of the weekend. We will pick some smaller shows here and there or whatever, but up the game, and and it's not, and we still will talk about you if you send in your stuff like we talk, we've been doing. But anyway, I knew I would sidebar if I went down that rabbit hole.
Now, let me just re-emphasize something you said. For people who say you and I don't come into this saying, well, we're going to talk about them, we're not going to talk about them. We literally talk about the promotions that want us to talk about them. And if you want us to talk about you, you will communicate with us. You will send us stuff. We were going to shows long before we started this podcast format. And so that's just Southern Pride's a part of your life. Southern Honor is a part of your life. These are shows you've been going to. You're not gonna change because that's just become, you're a fan of those promotions.
Right. And those, by the way, disclaimer, a lot of the weekends that I say, it'll be 2 shows those weekends, because I'm going to try to go out of my way to go to another show if I can, And look, by the way, for the record, there was a weekend or two that Myron went to Southern Friday and I went somewhere else.
Yes.
Trying to fill that role. But I need to know when your show is, who's on it worth coming, etc. Like, those things do matter. Like, I'm not coming if I have no clue, because the worst thing that could happen is if I show up, no clue, and it's a bad show, really reduces the chances of me coming back.
Yes. And there are, because of where I'm located, there's shows that I'm going to try to hit that aren't in y'all's wheelhouse. There was one coming up that I'm thinking about. Oh, I might try to hit this one. But again, a lot of people may not know this, Nick. You and I have lives, families, and jobs. And so,
heaven forbid, yeah.
I mean, I'm in a stretch where I'm out of pocket. Was going to be out of pocket multiple weekends in a row. Storm kind of changed that. So there's weekends I can't go to any shows. So anyway, all that to say.
But anyway, I sidebarred off because of the show of the week concept with the Coastal. I was really sad. It was heartbreaking that they did not get to run for a lot of reasons, because I was really looking forward to that show. But look, going forward, like, show of the week could be like tapped@gmail.com. Let us know. Separate show, segment, because that separate show, by the way, gives me a whole lot of time. And if I do separate show, do you want it to be with somebody who's involved with the promotion, like I did with Bryce? Or should it be the 3 of us doing it? Or what structure I want to know we want it to be what you guys want, not what we wanted, not just what we want to do. So let us know, 1000% tappedoutpod@gmail.com.
Yes, we want to give the fans what they want. Kraken Pro Wrestling was able to run in Tifton, Georgia. Again, kudos to Kraken Pro Wrestling, bringing independent wrestling to an area of the state that did not have it. A new product for the new fans. You've got the business who've kind of been running roughshod: Dominic Stuckey, J2 Strong, Lamar Diggs, Justin Case. They've kind of been running roughshod, and some of the other talent there at Kraken's having to kind of stand up and make a stand.
Listen, and it's kind of crazy. Like, there's a sleeper name in there. Look, I've known J2 Strong since he was a pup in this business, and he's come a long way. Lamar Diggs, the same. just in case, he's your guy. He's the top guy there. But Dominic Stuckey, like I tell people a lot of times, like he's a player in a lot of promotions he's working, and you need to pay attention when he's on the card. And I'm surprised he's in a faction because I think he's such a standout talent on his own. So him being in that faction elevates them, in my opinion, to a dominant force at that promotion.
Yes. Kraken continues to grow. They've gotten settled into a venue. That was something when they first started. They were running a theater, and that didn't work out. So kudos to them. They have they've kind of weathered the beginning and are getting into that groove. And from all intents and purposes, it definitely looks like Kraken is here to stay. And kudos to them. Again, a new wrestling promotion in an area that did not have it.
And kudos to them. I don't even know if I'm, look, they had to overcome a ton of obstacles to even put the show on. And so kudos to them for behind the scenes stuff that I'm aware of, that I'm like, hey, again, to me, it showed their dedication to making the show happen and pull it off. So kudos to those guys, all those parties involved. But yeah, thumbs up to those guys down at Kraken.
And you can check them out on YouTube. They've done a good job putting out a weekly show there.
Have you seen, I want to ask you this because you appreciate this kind of stuff. Have you seen the cool little graphics they're doing? They're doing like television, like where if you haven't seen one, it's like it's the graphics, but then like the wrestler's actually moving. It's not like a still picture.
Nice.
It's them posing and stuff like. And I know that sounds like, look, like why are you, like, hey, what does that impress you? Yes, that an indie promotion is going through on their YouTube channel to at least make the efforts to make it look like they do a great job.
I will try to find the hard drive with this footage on it. There were a couple of shows for Palmetto Championship Wrestling. I was putting in in-match instant replays. Like I remember Tracer X did a dive, and I did a box where you had the live match going, and then you had I had a box with the instant replay, and I was so proud of that. It took me forever to figure out how to do that on Final Cut Pro. But yeah, I mean, do not just be a hard listen. If you're just a hard cam, no, listen, at least you got something. Yep. Throw some commentary. Somebody posted something the other day, and I'm like, this has no commentary. Like, I don't want to watch this without commentary because I don't know what I'm watching. I need someone to tell me the story. So Kraken, if you've never heard of Kraken Pro Wrestling, you could go to their YouTube channel, start from the beginning, binge watch it. You could catch yourself up and understand what's going on because they do have the commentary. They do have the interviews. Yep. They're doing a great job of storytelling. Georgia Championship Wrestling was in Buckhead, Georgia. Terry Lawler and Sean Nelson went at it for that Georgia Heavyweight Championship. And it's been all about Terry Lawler and the Dirt Road Dynasty. It has just been back and forth. And now we've got a handicap match for Frightmare on October 26th there in Buckhead. Has Terry Lawler bitten off more than he can chew in all this?
Sean Nelson is a handful. Benny Bacardi's an appetizer. That's it. I mean, listen, he is a little thorn in the side. We have a little bit of history here at the Tapped Out Podcast with Benny Bacardi. It's a story that I promised I would never tell on the podcast. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
Benny Bacardi has bitten off more than he can chew.
I got you.
By sticking his nose into Sean Nelson and Terry Lawler's ongoing issues. But yeah, look, the Dirt Road Dynasty absolutely is a thorn in the side of Terry Lawler. But listen, we're Terry Lawler guys here. I don't think there's anything that they're going to throw in front of him that he can't handle. Don't think the numbers game is a problem, Terry Lawler. Terry Lawler's got a lot of friends in Georgia wrestling, so they need to be careful for sure. Problem is that sometimes your friends aren't always your friends for good.
Yeah, Terry Lawler, the encore presentation, that the whole encore presentation is a shoot interview waiting to happen of just the doors that have opened, the opportunities he's had. Uh, Terry Lawler's had more gear made in this encore presentation than some guys have their whole career. So it's just been a fun thing to watch. And you had Alexander Lev and the Grappler taking on Scott Mason and Jacob Ashworth. Georgia Championship Wrestling. Where can I watch this? I want to be able to watch your show. So throw up a phone and start recording and let us see this great show.
Yeah, I think they do have a YouTube channel. I mean, so definitely check them out for sure. I mean, because look, I Scott Mason and Jacob Ashworth is a tag team.
Yes, I just always have pictured those guys as sworn mortal enemies.
In a natural setting, you would think that's the case, but I was sitting there in my brain going, if I had a Northeast Georgia promotion, is there a tag team that you couldn't get over? Like those two guys? I mean, like those two dudes in their element, dude, they could be really, really strong as a tag team. Just saying. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, we're just two guys that don't know what we're talking about. We're trying to figure that out. Action Wrestling had another show at Das Barbecue there in Atlanta. We've heard it's a fun show. A lot of different talents you normally don't see on an Action Wrestling show. And hey, you can eat good food, see some good wrestling, see some folks you may not see anywhere else. And so again, Action Wrestling, we're seeing more and more promotions running multiple shows in a month, and that's good. That's good for wrestling fans.
1,000%.
And listen, these Sunday shows, those are the ones that I'm really looking at. My Sundays are a lot different than they used to be. And so getting to a Sunday show, I'm hoping that works out more and more often to be able to hit up these shows. Let's jump into who won the week.
Yeah, and man. So listen, I love this, and I hate to interrupt you. Who won the week has become a pretty popular and a very debatable subject because week to week about who won. Again, it's just our opinions, right? It's that simple. And our opinion this week, I'll let you kind of roll into it now.
This week is a no debate, no brainer. Action Wrestling won the week. 2 shows over the weekend. Now, again, were there extenuating circumstances?
Sure.
100%. They ran 2 shows and a match that was just thrown together. We talked a little bit about the factors that went into this match happening. And in the midst of the chaos of the weekend, Carlie Bravo and Landon Hale tore the house down with a potential match of the year candidate.
Jeff Jarrett has a saying, he doesn't believe in coincidence, only convergences.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, think about, we discussed it earlier, all of the things that happened for this to come together and happen, for them to go out there and just absolutely shine. Again, it's hey, Nick, then should they have won? Matt Griffin and the people at Action Wrestling that pulled this off, that's why it's the 2 shows. They pulled the match off to happen to begin with. Did the wrestlers to deliver? 1,000%.
Yeah.
No. Are you surprised that these 2 guys went out there and absolutely just stole the show?
Right.
But it had to happen, and that's why. Look, Carlie Bravo, super talented, and I always joke, probably not a bigger fan of Carlie Bravo, probably other than his some family members, right? But in Landon Hale, I hadn't seen him a ton, but when I finally saw him, I'm like nodding my head, going, "Yes, sir, I'm in."
Landon Hale, before his injury, maybe 2 years ago, was really getting a lot of action in the Carolinas. He was the Pro Wrestling Union heavyweight champion. I know Cole Maccabee very high. The promoter there very high on Landon Hale. Landon Hale had gotten into 3-count pro wrestling in upstate South Carolina some shots, I think, in North Carolina. And you and I know some things. This whole circumstance could literally be life-changing for Landon Hale.
These we talked about it. Like the matches like these, guys have to think outside the box. Like Carlie could have been like, "Nah, I'm good," whatever. But no, we know that's not Carlie because of his post, right? Landon Hale takes an opportunity to have he took advantage of an opportunity to be in there with a guy who's on TV regularly, and working. And it's one of those matches that when you hear and you hear about it, you're like, oh, I don't know. That's how guys earn opportunities to be on television. That's kind of where we're going with that. So that's why, look, again, it's not, we get it. It could have been, is it Action Wrestling's your winner, who won the week. But these guys, they kind of are the reasons why, right?
Yes. And you could literally count on one hand the promotion in Georgia that could have pulled something like that off. And on this weekend, it was Action Wrestling who pulled it off. And that's why they are this week's they won the week hands down. It's a landslide. That leads me to another question I want to talk about. And this question has led to another question, and we chase rabbits on this show. I was just writing. I was just sitting down, writing down some ideas in my notebook the other day, and I was writing some questions for the show. And one of the questions was, there's 1 quarter left in the year, and I was asking, okay, what promotion kind of needs to switch things up? What promotion has kind of gotten stale? What promotion has laid an egg this year? They need to switch things up. What promotion is like doing everything they need to do? They're doing it right. They just need to keep clawing away. So they need to stay the course. What promotion needs to be like, all right, we're going to punt and come back a little later? But that question got me to thinking that as wrestling fans, you and I have really been conditioned by Georgia Wrestling History's awards to look at wrestling from a January to December through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, it's a fun lens, but it's clear most promotions don't think about it that way because they're big show. We're not, maybe one or two, AWE will have show of the year in December. But nobody runs their promotion. Okay, our storylines are January to December. Am I way off base, or what are your thoughts on that?
Look, this isn't everybody, so we're just trying to, we were throwing it out there in our brain. Look, we already know Shindig's in the summer. That is their WrestleMania. So are they July to June?
Yeah.
Is that kind of their calendar, how it rolls? I know Crossroads, I jokingly say, is their SummerSlam, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So it rolls around. Still here's October. So Southern Honors, end of their year, kind of sort of their season finale, and is in October. So I would call this here's where I'm going to need probably some help. Correction. I consider Viral's Infection. That's a summer show, right? Isn't that the one they just ran with Jim Hendry? So there's the end of the summer. IWE, you could make a case. I'm not real sure. Kings of Controversy was always my assumption was the end of the year in November, but 2 consecutive years now we're looking at January. Is January the end of the year because 2 years in a row they ran War Games, as is that their season finale? Disruptor runs kind of a season to begin with. They don't run the entire, so that scenario. Who else? When we talk about these other promotions, Turnbuckle and Action don't have seasons. They just keep running.
SCA is weekly, and they kind of have their big shows throughout the year.
Well, they just had their anniversary show.
That's right.
That was in September, so there you go.
Yeah. I think when Anarchy was running strong, it was Hardcore Hell, which was, I guess, typically in October. Well, I consider that
well, remember the one they just ran when they were back, the Hardcore Hell 20 whatever. That was in the summer.
Yeah. I've always associated Halloween being a big month for Georgia. Everybody has like a fright mare Viral's Trick or Trauma is always a big show. But yeah, I think as fans, we're kind of looking at one thing. We're trying to fit maybe a square peg in a round hole. But it does lead me back to my initial question is who, we're 9 months into this thing. Who do you see as like, man, it's been a good year, or man, they kind of need to hit a different gear, or what are your thoughts on some of the promotions we've been watching this year?
The problem with wrestling, as we discussed this a little bit off air, is what have you done for me lately?
Yes.
If you hit your home run in January, it is so far removed by the time you get to the end of the year. With our literally our 24-hour news cycle that we live in, like, you are out of sight, out of mind. That's a challenge for promotions, in my opinion. So for promotions like Southern Honor, who run their big show in October, the AEW, the problem is, I think technically voting kind of like stuff, nominations and stuff go out in the beginning of December. So that's always been a thing for AEW to overcome, that they're like, by the time they run their show of the year, a lot of the process is over with.
Yes. Yes.
So that's kind of, but anyway, coming back to, like, I think, had you told us, I think here, I don't know who's hit the home runs, I can tell you this. When we rolled into January, I don't know that anybody thought that the forces of bullpen and turnbuckle, would be kind of what they are. Here's Nick's homerism, but I'm going to actually clarify it, by the way. Why do I think Disruptor they mattered this year? I had this conversation with another promoter literally a couple days ago. Why do I think they are, are they promotion of the year? I don't even know what that means. So, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not. That's not meant to be disrespectful. It just means I don't even know what that means.
Right.
But why do they deserve the pub they get? Because they give us matches nobody else does. They bring in guys from Louisiana, Florida, up north, out west. I mean, it's like they're not just giving us the same. So anybody to me that pushes the envelope and kind of forces a change, in the especially on the indie scene, they're the ones that we are like the excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general, and that's kind of why. Like, here's a challenge. I'm going to say something that it literally just popped into my head, and this is how I get into trouble. Someone please explain to me. I did not realize that Ben Bishop has been wrestling for almost 5 years.
What?
He lives in Georgia. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong. That was the numbers a promoter gave me. And I should have reached out, but it literally just popped into my head. How does that guy live in this town? I'm not going to say where I was told he lives, because that
lives in the state.
He lives in the state of Georgia, and he's been doing this thing for a little while, and nobody that was loud enough to make any noise about it was booking him that I knew of. That is, you want me, here's the statement I'm going to make. Shame on Georgia wrestling. And I mean, I'm throwing that across the board. Look, I don't even know how green he was. I don't know how bad he was. Doesn't matter. You could have brought that dude in, and he could have been somebody's muscle. They're heavy, and been working while he was training and building him and building equity in that character until he was ready to have a match. By the way, I've seen you stroll other 7-foot guys out there that aren't as good and put on matches. So somebody explain that to me. I don't even know what started me down this rabbit hole, but I literally, when I had this conversation with that promoter, I literally completely lost it going, wait, he's wrestled for how long, and he lives where? And nobody saw this? Like, that is you living in your comfort zone. Now I know how I got there. I know Southern Honor's using it, and kudos to them for branching out, whatever. Does that happen without Disruptor?
Oh, yeah.
He's not, look, he gets picked up by, because of his social media, it is 1,000% Big Ben Bishop doing it. By the way, where do you think Disruptor found him? On his social media, right? I know for a fact that another talent said, hey, you should check this out. They see him and they bring him in. That's what I mean by somebody getting out of a comfort zone, trying something new. When you're in your comfort zone, wash, rinse, repeat, you think that you're doing the right thing because your crowd's hot, but does that make you I don't like that influencer word. Are you influencing, the scene if you're just kind of wash, rinsing, repeating?
Yes. We've seen wrestlers get booked because of their social media, and I know of wrestlers who got unbooked because
Correct.
of their social media. I definitely feel like, and we've kind of talked about this throughout the year, like the winds of change are really blowing through Georgia this year. Turnbuckle has come in, bullpens come in, Kraken even in a new part of the state, and they're not following all of the rules that the unwritten rules in Georgia wrestling have been there, and things. It is amazing to me always how things can just switch so quickly. You had Bryce Cannon, who was headed toward what could have been one of the great years we've seen these last 5 or 6 years that I've been really following Georgia wrestling. He was on his way, got injured. You have the wrestler who was rated the number one wrestler in the first half of the year by the Georgia Wrestling History Panel, which you and I were a part of. I think we've said that before. I don't think who since those ratings came out has had 2 matches that I'm aware of. He was in the Rumble Jack. He wrestled TJ Perkins. Things change so quickly. We've seen Southern States Pro start off strong, rebooted, back to AEW. That's why I love independent wrestling. It is so unpredictable.
So the ones that think that they're like, we are entrenched at the top, that's the second somebody pulls that leg and you just start boop, boop. And I tell people, is this a thing to say? That the fall a lot of times is faster than the climb.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, one of the big stories this year, Anarchy announces they're going to be a part of the Royston Dome. And you and I covered the Royston Dome. They at one point were going to have 4 promotions running there. Now they're down to 2. We don't know anything about Anarchy except that Anarchy 3.0.
There's no next date announced at this point.
And if you do not have a next date announced, you are essentially you're not a promotion. Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many crazy things happen, and there are things we know off the record, behind the scenes, things we can't even put behind the paywall, that if you listed the 10 stable or staple promotions in Georgia, a year from now, a couple of those may not even exist. That's crazy to me.
Hey, we haven't even, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Next year, there's going to be another promotion. Think about this. October 1st, we're recording this.
Yeah.
We know January 2025, there's a new promotion coming in.
Yes.
And at this very moment, I don't know, I'm not questioning anybody's commitment, but I would say, is there anybody more committed to making his promotion successful than Josh Fields? Like, everything is like, if he's starting, he was in September already, like, boom. But actually, wasn't it August? It was August. He made the announcement at the end of August. So all of September, he's going to have all of September, October, November, December, and then to get ready to fire up in January. And that's it. I think if if we wrap up, I think that we'll do ours mid to late January, so that way we can kind of absorb everything and have those conversations. I think there's going to be a lot of. I'm going to say this before we get out of here, and then we can get out of here if you're ready. I believe the biggest news of the year could potentially happen between October 1st and December. Yeah, I think because of things we know, I believe honestly the biggest news in Georgia indie wrestling happens potentially between now and the end of the year. Yes,
and if something that potentially, I mean, a game changer.
Yeah. And hold on, real quick. I know I said one more. I got to ask you. This is hand in hand. In the NFL, every season, the next season, it's always one of those like 3 or 4 of the playoff teams don't make it back, and there's always 4 new teams that may, or whatever. That's what I'm predicting for, like, when you talk about who's the most, because we're not talking about gate. I think that's kind of become my new thing. Gate, sure, because you got to make money. Attendance, meh, doesn't. I mean, whatever. I think you could be drawing 100 a week and still be an influence, depending on what else what you're doing that's causing people to react, change, or like, oh, that works, and taking it on. I think the people that are the most influential in Georgia, the ones that when we started 2024, it ain't going to be the same at the end of 2025, and it ain't going to be close. It's going to be that revolving door like NFL playoff teams, I think.
Yes. Did you see I don't want to chase this. Did you see? I saw an article. They were interviewing the general manager of the Seattle Mariners, and they were talking about no one in Major League Baseball won 100 games this year, and he said our goal is to win 88 games. 88 games. You win 88 games, you get into the playoffs, and in the playoffs, anything can happen. Yep. He said, so our payroll, our roster decisions, we're not trying to win 99. We're trying to win 88 games. Now, so in Georgia, you just got to show up. You got to be consistent. You got to it's a grind. Back to what you said. One of my big beefs with Georgia Wrestling History and the Carolinas Awards is they start the process in December. They're not even looking at December. So you're essentially giving awards for 11 months. And so I think whatever we do,
and
whatever that looks like.
And I'll push back and say it ain't 11 months. It's closer to 6 because you forgot about January, February, and March by the end of that time. And again, by the way, if it was us doing it, we're not telling, like, okay, I wouldn't do the December thing. That's why we would do it in January. But that's the whole. But I'm not criticizing it because the people that vote, even wrestling people, I'm not saying the wrong people are voting. I'm just saying people that vote only consider, like, your memory only goes back so far.
Yeah.
If you don't do something to go out of your way to keep it front of mind, we forget about it. Happens. I'm pointing at us. It happens. Trust me.
If only there were a podcast that covered independent wrestling and had available show notes for people to go back and review and look back and be reminded of all the wonderful things that happen in independent wrestling. If only there were such a thing, and you can get access to those show notes. I'm going to challenge Nick to go back and even put some of our past show notes on. But if you become a member, patreon.com/tappedoutpod is where you can become a member. You get access to the Georgia Wrestling Calendar. You get access to those show notes. And then you can also become a member at YouTube, which is where we are now. Nick's put a video on Patreon of how you can get that RSS feed anywhere you want it. We're primarily a video show now. YouTube, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit that bell. And as we kind of close out today, again, hopefully this podcast was an escape for someone who was facing, I mean, I cannot overstate this. The feeling in our region is that the national media has not even scratched the surface of how bad it is here. Like there are towns that literally got wiped off the map. You know, if you've heard of Chimney Rock, North Carolina, the mayor said our economy is 100% tourism and our town is 100% gone. Wiped. I mean, roads wiped out. So it has been a devastating thing. And so the fact that I have power and internet and am able to record a wrestling podcast, what a great blessing. And you got to count your blessings, but hopefully for somebody, it gives you an hour where you can put all that aside and you can listen about something that in grand scheme of things isn't very important, but it's something we love to do. So I appreciate the Tapped Out Network, appreciate Nick and Myron and everything they do.
Yeah, man. And like, look, it's like I said, we get it. It's silly. It's funny. It's but it's something just, it takes away from for us too. It's not just for, it's all everybody involved. And like I said, hopefully they do, appreciate it and just keep on listening, man. That's all we can ask for.
It has certainly helped take our minds off the fact that this Friday in Buford, Georgia, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, Tannery Row Ale House, what's going to happen? So if you want to find out, you can come get some great food, see some great wrestling, and see what Nick's going to do. What's his decision? So literally, for Nick McDaniel and for the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, we will see you literally at the matches.